welcome back to another episode of Come Over for Dinner. I'm so glad you're joining me today. Today I have a very special guest. Her name is Jenny Story. She has 9 children, 6 grandchildren, so she has all the age ranges. She has 4 school-age children at home, 2 in college, 2 who are married, 1 who's engaged. Of course, I mentioned 6 grandchildren. They're 5 and under, so she has a very busy life. She and her husband have started Story Family Medicine. She was the office manager for 6 years and has recently stepped away to just spend more time with her grandchildren and her children. She still does help with the business, does the accounting at home, but it's been a big project over the last 6 years to help her husband establish this business, and it is a wonderful one. It's a Christian family medicine business.
Thank you.
Welcome, Jenny.
Thank you.
Well, today we are going to hear all about hospitality from Jenny's perspective, and honestly, I might title this episode Big Hospitality, because even with your own family, you potentially are feeding 11 just with your children and husband. But now they're married, you have grandchildren. So how many people do you usually feed when you have a group over?
I would say on an average night, I feed 11. I have high school boys that come and go that work, but I have son-in-laws. I have my daughter's fiance, and they're getting married at the end of July. So he is over every night for dinner.
Of course he is.
Because that's how they get to spend time together. And my parents live in town, and we love having them over for dinner. Everything we do is big. It's just a lot of food all the time.
Was that something you grew up with? Is big family, big meals, or was this something you had to grow into?
That's a great question. I have one brother, and he's 6 years younger than I am. And that's it.
That's it. I guess slowly adapted as you had more and more children.
Yes. I've always loved children. My husband and I think we did want a large family, although we didn't set out to have 9.
You didn't?
No.
When he proposed, you didn't say, well, no. 9 children or nothing.
No, ma'am. No, we did not. But so much better than I ever could have imagined. It's crazy, big, fun, hard work, and more rewarding than anything
you could have imagined if somebody said, you're going to have 9 children.
Yes. It's incredible.
What fun. Well, I want you to tell me a little bit about some of the hospitality you do. The one that I know about, my son has gone to her house for a lacrosse team dinner. She and her husband hosted, and her children, I know they were involved in helping too, but they hosted the entire lacrosse team to come over and eat dinner and just, I guess, I don't know if the right word is team building, but it just created team spirit, camaraderie. It was fun. He had such a great time. So tell us a little bit about those sorts of events.
Yeah, I think that hospitality grows as you grow, as your children grow. And something that we've tried, especially our boys, because they've been involved in sports, when the team is down, when the team is discouraged, and we can just see it in the team and in our boys, I will say, hey, what do you think about having the boys over for hot dogs or pancakes or waffles or something super simple, but let's have the team over. And it's a way for my boys to demonstrate leadership in an encouraging, not critical, like let the coaches do that.
Right.
But you boys need to encourage each other and build each other up. So how as a mom can I begin to teach them to use the gifts we've been given to do that? And it's amazing how it's caught on with them. My hospitality has exploded because of my children.
Because they're wanting to invite friends and teammates. And
Yes. And we always say things that you do in moderation, your children will take to excess for good or bad, right?
Mom, can we have the entire lacrosse team over?
Tomorrow.
Yes,
Yes.
you can.
Yes, you can. That's a great idea, son. How can I help you?
Right.
So I love to see them use our home that way. It's a gift, I think, to the whole team.
Mm-hmm. It really is. From what I remember, it seemed like it happened when the team was down. They had lost some games and they were just really getting discouraged and feeling low. And then all of a sudden there's this team dinner.
Yep.
I think
it's purposeful.
I know Max came back encouraged.
Good.
And had a great time and was smiling and, wasn't drooping shoulders. And
Sometimes those boys can be pretty hard on each other. And I think they're boys. It's it's how they grow. It's how they get ready for their daily battles. But they can also really encourage each other too.
And recognize they're all on the same team and need to build each other up and all that. So that's great. And as children get older, when they ask to have friends over, a lot of times they're able to really do a lot to help. I know my daughter, we have one daughter, 4 boys and 1 girl. She would say something like, I want to have a Christmas party for all my friends.
Right.
But then she would make all the cupcakes and go and buy all the food and just have these cute little arranged platters. I remember she made a Christmas tree with meats and cheeses and I don't even remember. Or maybe it was fruit that, in the design of a Christmas tree. But I didn't even have to do anything.
Isn't that amazing?
I did. I kind of helped clean the house and how can I help? But when they get a little bit older too, they're learning those skills of hosting and can really do it well.
But I would encourage you that started years before. She did not just come up with that idea one day and all of a sudden was able to do it.
That's true.
That started years and years before, of her being comfortable in the kitchen, of her knowing she was welcome in the kitchen.
And learning to do cupcakes even when she made a mess and was very, very young.
Yes. Cupcakes is actually on my list to talk about because
I love cupcakes.
Hate cupcakes.
I love to eat them.
And yet they are
big
cupcakes with a purpose.
Hospitality. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll have to delve into her menu. Yes. With big hospitality, sometimes you should dump it all in one pan and just be done.
Right.
But cupcakes can be fun.
They can be a learning tool.
Okay. We'll get into that. So speaking of a menu, what would you serve when you have a large group over?
Yeah. So we've had a kind of a unique experience. I have our first 5 children are daughters. So I have 5 girls in a row. And as our girls have gone through college, it was actually our 3rd girl going through college that said, hey, Mom, they have this thing called soup night, and they do it for the freshmen, which is incredible. And it's always at the college president's house, and it's really, really incredible. But it ends after freshman year because the next freshman class comes in.
Right.
So my daughter comes to me, it's her sophomore year, 2nd year of college, and she says, hey, Mom, sometimes that is the best meal the boys get all week. I'm like, my kids know me. Like that went straight to my heart.
You're picturing starving boys eating ramen noodles and
there is
cold sandwiches.
Right. Yeah. So she said, hey, Mom, can we take over where the Merkles left off? And can we do soup night for my class? And I thought, what a great opportunity to teach her meal planning, budgeting, cooking for a large group. So we're probably talking anywhere from, on the extreme side, maybe just 10 to 40-ish. And you never know how many people are going to come because there's no RSVP. So
just show up. And this was for her sophomore year?
It was for her sophomore year of college. So just to put that in perspective, what is she? She's probably 18, 19-ish. I don't remember exactly with that girl. But it was an incredible opportunity that we've kept going for, I don't know. I'm horrible with time. I'm going to say this is our 4th or 5th year now.
That's incredible.
And as my other girls have gotten to that stage, they've, you graduate, you don't do soup night anymore. They've taken over for their classes. So it's definitely a ministry that we do. And it's taken something that we do as a family, which is big food, big hospitality, and taken it to a completely different level because it's every Tuesday night for upwards of 40 kids.
Hungry kids.
Yeah, hungry.
Adults, not tinies.
Many of which are men.
Yes.
So heavy
Serve
on
a
the
double
protein. And these are filling soups that we make. But it's been an incredible experience.
How fun, and how fun for your kids to all be a part of that.
It has been. And I'm sure you can imagine that as with any kind of We really do see it as a ministry. Any kind of ministry you get involved in, it's a lot of hard work too. And there are, without fail, every single one of my girls have come to me and said, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. Where maybe it's a stressful time in schoolwork and I don't know, maybe only 10 people showed up and they made all this food and they're discouraged, or maybe the food didn't turn out, or maybe they didn't follow the recipe very well.
They're still learning how
yes,
to cook.
Right. And even that we can just see in hindsight, has been such a great tool for them. Also saying, you can quit. You don't have to keep doing this, but let's talk about why we're doing it in the first place. And they've all continued on.
They pushed through those hard times and realized this is really important to our friends and classmates.
Right.
They really look forward to it. Right. Even those 10 that show up.
Absolutely.
They are just thinking,
right,
this is really the best meal I'm going to have this week.
Yes. So menus are super simple. We have probably 8 soups, and we rotate over and over and over again. And every once in a while, we'll come up with a new soup that we see online, or we hear from a friend, or we've had at a friend's house, and we'll put that into the rotation. But it's so important to keep it really simple. Mm-hmm. And we have the same sides over and over again. I don't often serve dessert just because it's soup and bread, mm-hmm. or soup and tortilla chips, or soup and cornbread. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty basic. But then when we do have dessert, it's kind of a get to, not a have to.
Right.
And maybe it's another sister that pops in the kitchen and says, hey, I'll make cupcakes or brownies.
There's
or cookies.
A story behind these cupcakes.
Oh, I know. So it's very simple. Our very favorite, I talked to my girls last night and I said, okay, girls, we have these soups that we make over and over again. Without fail, the very favorite is pork pozole.
That sounds amazing, and I have never heard of this.
No way.
Pork pozole.
Pork pozole.
Explain this.
So
what is
simple.
Pozole? It sounds Mexican.
It is.
Okay.
It is Mexican. So it's usually a pork roast that we either take and cook ahead of time and shred, or you can just chop it up and put it in a pressure cooker, with maybe some cumin and oregano and then salt and pepper. And then it's got hominy in it. Do you know what hominy is?
I am aware of hominy.
So a hominy is, maybe some of your listeners would say, no, that's not what hominy is. But I think it's corn soaked in lye and then rinsed.
Okay.
So it's got a really chewy texture to it. It's delicious. We love it.
And in a soup, it seems like it would act as a thickener as well.
It does. It thickens the soup. It gives some substance to the soup. But really, pork pozole, any kind of pozole, is all about the toppings. So we do sliced radishes, cilantro, cheese, tortilla chips, or maybe someone's made cornbread instead of buying tortilla chips. And we just load up on avocado, lime. It's delicious.
It sounds delicious. It really does.
But it's the kind of thing that if you don't have it, like if you don't have radishes or avocados are too expensive, you can
just go without them.
You don't do it. Mm-hmm. So pork pozole is the number one.
Okay. We must have this recipe. I need to try it. I need to create it. And this is a great option for big groups as well. I need more of those in my back pocket.
Yeah, it's a good option. I actually am going to send you our top 8 soups.
That would be so fun for anybody who might want to create a soup night or a regular rotation, because if you do it weekly, you're not going to repeat. I mean, you have 2 months worth of soup recipes, and that doesn't feel like you're eating the same soup too many times.
Well, I think
2 months later, you're eating one again.
Well, it's hard to think about it as we've had such beautiful weather over the past couple weeks. We're heading into summer here, so soup isn't high on my menu list right now. But in the fall and in the summer and in our very mild springs.
Yes, when it's cool at night.
Where it's raining upside down.
Mm-hmm. Or blowing sleet sideways.
Right.
With sun shining at the same time.
Right, 2 hours later. Right. Soup is just so easy.
Yes. And you probably take a break in the summertime, I'm guessing, since college kids head out.
Yeah,
or do
we
you
do.
Still do something during the summertime?
We do take a break. And then we kind of start back up again with something a little bit different called hot dog night.
This is when school is starting.
No, this is when, so we take several weeks off.
Okay.
And then during the summer, my girls like to invite people that are left in Moscow. So because it's a college town, lots of their friends leave and they go home. And there's always a crew that doesn't leave, that stays here.
Right.
And that's a fun opportunity to get a different mix of college students because they're not all in the same grade. They're not in the same level. So we have hot dog night, and it is the simplest hot dog night you can imagine. It's cheap hot dogs.
Cheap hot dogs, chips.
Yep. And we ask the kids to bring drinks.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
But
And
they are eager for some fellowship, see
Yep.
their friends,
Yep.
have a meal together.
we put out the badminton net, and, and over the years, I am just less and less involved in it. More often than not, Rod and I take off and go have a glass of wine.
And your kids are hosting.
They are 100% in charge of
Love
it.
that.
Yeah.
How fun.
Yeah. It is fun. It's a hoot.
That's great. And
Yeah.
mom and dad are off on date night.
Yeah. We have this old Jeep that rattles more than it runs. And we take off in the Jeep and just go watch the sunset. And there can be 30, 40 college students at our house, and they got it.
Yep.
They're fine.
Yep.
It's great.
And it creates a sense of independence in your children as well as ownership for hosting.
Right.
If mom's in the kitchen, then there's less ownership.
That's very true.
But they have to start recognizing when somebody needs a drink or to know where the restroom is or whatever, or handle a crisis.
Yeah.
Something spilled. I'm the one that cleans it up,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. It's
Yeah.
really great for young people to.
We'll see what the dynamics
Get there.
look like as the years progress. This is not something we're married to. We'll see. My next batch of children is boys. They're boys, so they know barely how to cook. If something happened to me, they would be okay in the kitchen. It would not be tasty, and
But
I
they
don't
could
think anybody would
survive.
want to come over.
Right. They could pull the hot dogs off.
They
but
could.
Past that.
They could do hot dogs and
That's pretty
scrambled
great.
eggs.
That's pretty great.
So, we'll see. We're not so wrapped up in it that it can't end, but it's been a sweet thing.
That's great. So your favorite soup, do you have a favorite cornbread recipe?
I do.
Okay, you have to send that as well.
America's Test Kitchen was super popular when I was a young mom, and I just still go back to it over and over again. Ina Garden is a Barefoot Contessa. Her recipes are so steady.
They're reliable.
They are. They always turn out great. And so I find myself going back to her over and over and over again. So I think the cornbread recipe is from America's Test Kitchen. It's delish.
Okay, so soup, cornbread or chips,
Yep.
toppings for whatever the toppings are that work for the soup you're serving,
Right.
and optional dessert.
Totally optional.
Tell me about the cupcakes.
Yeah. So I think as I was thinking about with my girls, big food cooking and thinking about this did not start when they were 17 and 18. This really started when they were younger. So I have one girl that's 13. And at the beginning of the school year, well, she was 12 then, she said, Mom, I really want to make cupcakes for soup night. And I thought,
No.
I hate cupcakes. They're so messy. And there's so many of them. And by the time you're done, like, you're done. You're ready to be out of the kitchen. But I thought I really do need to invest in her and her cooking, baking skills as well. So I said, yes. How about every soup night, plus or minus, you can make cupcakes. Her first cupcakes were horrible. I would say probably her first 6 weeks of cupcakes were horrible.
Just overcooked?
Oh,
dry?
she could, because part of it is teaching them, how do you find a good recipe? And they see these things on Pinterest and they want to do that, but she didn't have the really foundational skills of going to that level.
Mm-hmm.
So part of it was just, okay, well, we can give that a go, and watching her not do great and being okay with that. Because the awesome thing about soup night is if you put it out, it's going to disappear.
Yes.
It doesn't matter how ugly they are. It doesn't matter that
They're going to like the cupcakes.
they're going to like the cupcakes. And so every night they'd disappear, and we think, well, we get to try again next week. So we just had the sweetest thing happen. School just finished, and they finished last week, the younger kids. And she said, Mom, I want to make cupcakes for the last day of school. I said, you got it. Go ahead. I said, do you need help finding a recipe? No, I got it. I don't need help finding a recipe. I thought, okay, we'll see. Like, this is the test, right? They just had finals at school. Let's see how this goes. She brought me the most beautiful cupcakes, and they were yummy, and they were simple, and they were beautiful. And I just thought, wow, that took almost a whole school year for her to get to that point of the confidence of, nope, I can find the recipe. I know how to do all of this. And Soup Night helped with that, of just having a purpose for this is where we're beginning. This is where we want to go. And it might take some time and some mess, but let's go.
Well, that takes a lot of wisdom to say, I'm investing in my daughter. It's not the money we're spending on ingredients or the time I'm spending helping her clean up or whatever. It's not about the cupcakes being served to the class.
Right.
It's about my daughter growing and becoming a better and better person in this area.
Right.
And honestly, those skills would transfer to cakes and all kinds of other things.
I think so. I think once you know how to read a recipe and you're comfortable with ingredients and you're not so wowed by the
pictures on Pinterest.
Yeah. And you recognize that basic recipes, once mastered, are the foundation from where you go from there. It was a yay moment.
How fun. And I'm sure her class was delighted to have yummy homemade cupcakes to celebrate the end of the school year.
I'm sure they were. It was sweet.
So does she have a favorite cupcake recipe she's going to share with us?
Yes, I'm sure she would. So King Arthur's flour, they have great recipes. It's just
They're pretty reliable as well.
They are. It's just a simple vanilla cupcake with a chocolate buttercream. And
best of both worlds.
Yep. And, we've watched YouTube videos on how to decorate, and I got her a really basic pastry bag with piping. And so we messed around a little bit with that, but I was thrilled to see that she just came back to a beautiful, simple cupcake that took some time. Took about a year.
Yes. Well, it won't be long. She might have already, but she might be asking for glitter and sprinkles and different tips.
Yep. And it started that way. And I think that so many young women think that that's what they need to start with. And those are fun. That can be your goal. But
the foundation has to be just, it tastes good.
Yep. Right. Yeah.
You actually.
Looking good helps. But
But in the end, I would rather have a cupcake that tasted delicious and looked a little rough than vice versa.
Right.
So
yeah.
The key is good food.
Yes, definitely.
Do you make any of these soups ahead of time or the cornbread ahead of time? Do you have any shortcuts, or do you really just set aside Tuesday to do that cooking?
We've developed quite a rhythm. So Sunday night is meal planning. And, after Sabbath is over and we've all had a sweet rest, Sunday evening I plan the whole week for meals. And that's usually when I would connect with my girls and say, okay, what soup do you want to make this week? Then she needs to tell me what we need and what we need to, because that was kind of part of it, a part of the education process. And I love Walmart ordering online. So I'd literally sit there at my computer, put in the order, have it delivered Monday morning.
It's pretty amazing.
Oh, it was incredible. And I still do go to the grocery store, but Walmart online.
It saves so much time.
And I even live like 3 minutes from the grocery store. But I think it's a budget saver. It's a planner. I really appreciate that online service. So Sunday night we plan. Monday morning, the groceries are there on my doorstep. That's incredible.
Didn't even have to leave the house.
Wow, that's incredible. And then so usually Monday afternoon, soup is made by Monday night.
So you just put it in the fridge and heat it back up.
That's right.
So you are just ready.
Yep.
You know you're ready.
Yep.
All you have to do is kind of pick up the house and last minute things.
Yep. Right. And it's kind of dependent on the girls' schedule, their college schedule. Sometimes they don't have time on Monday afternoons, but they have time on Tuesday morning. But I'm a pretty big stickler that if it's not done, soup tastes better if it sits. And sometimes they'd make it on Sunday evening. if we had all the ingredients.
The flavors have time to meld, and it just becomes better and better.
And then on Tuesday, when they're looking for all their friends coming over, then it's just about setting out all the utensils and the paper products and all the condiments and just heating the soup up. Easy.
Do you do disposable for all of your meals to make cleanup easy? Do you just buy plastic or paper bowls, or what do you gather for supplies?
Yeah. So years ago, Becca told me, I think you actually have it on your website. There are these red trays.
Yes.
With paper liners.
Yes.
So these red plastic trays that aren't disposable, but they're cheap. So like if one gets broken or thrown away, no big deal. And then I use paper bowls for the soup. And then there's a place to put your bread because you have that plastic tray with the liner. So besides the the tray, everything's disposable. Disposable water bottles. Yeah, it's all disposable.
No very little cleanup. The soup pot is the cleanup.
Very, very little. Yeah, definitely.
That makes it more doable every week.
Yeah, right.
If you're not facing a kitchen of or how many people did you say? 40 people? Potentially 40 people? I don't think
we've had more than 40. Although there was one day when a young man brought a group of the U of I football players over, which they were more than welcome. I was thrilled to see him kind of go outside of our circle. And
that's a pretty big group of eaters, though.
Well, actually, it was only like 7 or 8 of them. Okay. It wasn't the whole team. I looked at my husband, I said, I think we need to go to the grocery store.
We need another pot of soup.
Yeah, and we took off and got more bread, and it was very fun. I'm glad that they came. Very glad.
So when you're preparing, what would you say the best prep tip you have is? How do you prepare your home for having company over?
I think it's done in the little things all week long. I don't think I could do it if it was this big push for, okay, everything has to be perfect right now, and you haven't done bit by bit by bit all week long. So I think it's in your little routines. This is the day I vacuum. This is the day I clean the bathrooms. This is the day I mop. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe you do it all in one day, or maybe you have a house cleaner. But it's still in the little day-to-day managing of those activities. You know, it's in the shopping, making sure that I have the paper products, you know, when I go to the grocery store, and all of that. I think of it like muscles. You know, someone who is younger could look at our family who's been doing this. We're just about ready to have our 27th anniversary. We've been married for a while now, and our kids are getting older, and they could look at us and they could say, oh, I could never do that. And I think it's just a muscle. It's a muscle that I have been using for a long time, and I've gotten stronger and stronger and stronger. So I would say just start with the little muscle that you have and purposefully use it. I mean, we're commanded to, right? We're commanded to be hospitable. So even in the little things with whatever you have been given, to use that bit by bit, be faithful with your grocery shopping, to the best of your ability, with little toddlers running around. And see, I don't have that anymore. So my life is a little different now.
Yes.
But keeping things clean so that when it does come to that hospitality, you're not totally wiped out because you've spent all day cleaning. And I know it's been said on your podcast many times before, but just planning ahead. And the more you can do ahead, it tastes better. It feels better.
And you feel better about the people walking in the door. It's just less stressful for sure.
It is. And years ago, I think it was probably Nancy Wilson was talking about our standards and how if you and your family are not loving the standard, then you need to lower the standard. So first looking at who am I supposed to be hospitable to? Well, it's your people. It's your little people. It's your husband. It's your parents if they're in town. It's your immediate circle. Do that well. Do that well with joy, with gratitude, and then stretch your muscle a little bit and widen it. And it'll get bigger and you'll get stronger. And then someday you'll look back and you'll think, I just had 100 people in my backyard and I had fun.
And I pulled it off. They all went away smiling. That's so true, and such a great reminder, because when you were married 27 years ago, you didn't start off with soup night for 40 people.
No, ma'am.
There were times you were doing hospitality with babies and toddlers, and it was a small group, and you just slowly grew from there. So
we simply didn't have the space. And now we do have the space. And we have bigger groups in the summer because we have more space in our backyard. So
and outdoors is an option in the summertime when it's beautiful.
Absolutely. So I think my biggest tip is starting small.
I would add to that just the sidelong glances. Be careful, because so many times we want to look at other people's strengths and how they're doing something and think, well, I'm not there, like you said, and either just feel down and out and don't do anything, or feel it's unattainable. But we need to be faithful with where God has put us, what our situation is, where we are in life, and even if it's small hospitality to begin. Like you said, just begin, because we're commanded to it, and to just look around at other people whose situation is a little bit different, or maybe they're called to just massive hospitality all the time, and you're not. Not everyone is called to host a dinner to 100 every week. Maybe some people are. Maybe that's how they serve their church. You know, they are the ones who coordinate events for their church or whatever. But just, being faithful with what we're given.
Those sidelong glances are they're wicked. They can rip us apart. And if you can repent and recognize, I am being envious. I'm looking at this and envying what they have, and instead turn that into thankfulness for what you have and thankfulness for what God has given them. And then the Lord does something amazing in your heart where you see, I want to learn from that person. Wow, they are doing something so much better than I am. And they're right here. I'm going to ask them, come over, teach me how to make homemade tortillas. Teach me how to make sourdough bread. Teach me how to make soup.
Yes.
I'm burning my soup.
Yes. Using resources available in your community, ladies that you know who are doing great things. Listening to this podcast, because there's so many amazing women who are coming on here and sharing their hospitality tips and their recipes.
I've learned so much from your podcast.
Well, thank you.
Yes, I have. I've been super inspired.
Well,
all the great recipes.
You know, it doesn't matter how long you cook or even how many family favorites you have in your recipe binder. There's times when you just feel, I don't want to cook. There's nothing. I just don't even feel like cooking. And you need some fresh inspiration, a new recipe to try, or whatever, encouragement to make a batch of sourdough bread or whatever it is. It's fun to have some encouragement, and just new recipes to try, encouragement to keep doing the good work. There's a saying, it goes something like, comparison is the thief of joy. And
so true.
It goes back to what you were saying about sidelong glances. When we look at other people and want what they have, it could be envy, it could be jealousy, but it's comparing and judging yourself based on another person. And all of a sudden your joy that you're also commanded to have has plummeted, and it leads to a lack of thankfulness for sure. For what God has given you.
Absolutely.
He's given us all gifts, and he expects us to use the gifts he's given to us, not wish we had someone else's gifts. So what is your best advice for showing warm hospitality for those coming into your home? How do you make them feel welcome?
You know, actually, I'm going to echo something that another one of your guests has said that I have started to use for my younger children. We are working on greeting guests at the door and practicing, because I find that I'm often busy when my guests arrive, but I have all of these helpers around me that I can teach to warmly just go answer the door with a smile. Welcome to our home. Can I take your coat? Guests will say, well, should I take off my shoes? I want my kids to know what the answer to that is. In our house, it's heavens no, don't take your shoes off. You are welcome to keep those shoes on. You know, I want my kids to feel comfortable with that. Of course, it's your whole stature of joy, and you are serving them. Hospitality is about fellowship and your guests. But I think your simple suggestion of greeting guests, I thought, boy, even I don't think my 11 and 13-year-old, I think we could use some brush up on that. So we're working on that.
Yeah, and it gets easier and easier. At first, it probably seems really scary to a young person, to an older person, an adult, a young adult. to greet them, look them in the eye, shake their hand, possibly have a small conversation. And then a year or two passes and you realize,
Wow.
They're excellent at this and they don't get nervous at all anymore.
They've got strong muscles.
Building muscles.
Yep.
That's a great tip.
Yes.
What is your must-have kitchen item?
So I have 3.
Oh, I love multiples.
So, and I didn't look ahead to see if you already had these.
It's okay. Double recommends or triple recommends just means we really, really need to add it to our wish list.
Okay. Well, because this, was about big hospitality. If you are going to do big hospitality, something that is so helpful is a large roaster. Like I think some people call them turkey roasters or electric roasters. I think they're either 22 quart or 28 quart, but that's what I cook my soup in.
We have not had that recommended.
I didn't think you did, not that one. I have a large roaster. I actually have 3, but just start with one. That's what I cook my soup in. That goes in the fridge. I have a fridge in my basement. So the roaster insert comes out, carry it down to the fridge and it sits overnight. And then early afternoon, you plug it back in and it's ready to go. If your recipe can be cooked in a crock pot or in an Instant Pot or in a Dutch oven in the oven, it can be cooked in a roaster.
Well, and that saves your stovetop space. You just plug that in.
Yep.
And the rectangle shape would allow you to stir maybe a little bit easier and store in the refrigerator.
Right.
Better than, say, a giant tall soup pot.
Right.
Which that may work for you as well, but that's a great option.
So the roaster is how we serve soup every single Tuesday.
Do you usually make one big roaster full for your recipe or do you use more than one?
No, I just use one and that's about 40 people. So if I know that we're having more people, sometimes we'll make a curry and then we'll have a big pot of rice. I do like hotel pans of rice.
Do you cook that in the oven?
I just cook that in the oven. Right.
You have to give me that tip as well.
Rice in the oven is so easy for big groups. But so if I didn't, I could do that in the roaster oven too. It's not perfect because the sides the inside sides get really hot. So you do have to stir it or it'll burn. But man, for big groups.
Do you use a liner to keep cleanup to a minimum or no?
No, you could, but I don't.
It's no big deal.
No, it's no big deal. So then my other 2 items, which I thought I probably use them every single soup night, is a microplane zester for lemon zest, for Parmesan cheese, for garlic, for ginger. I use my zester all the time. And then the last one would be just a small manual citrus press. For lemon juice, lime juice, small oranges. I probably use that every single time for soup night too.
And a handheld would be enough because you're not putting a whole lot of that in the soup.
And it's a good one. The one I'll give you the link for. It's a really good handheld one. I do have one that goes on my Cuisinart, like if I'm making something big, but I don't get that out nearly as often as I do just my little handheld one.
You're just going to do it really fast.
Yep.
Make it a quick squeeze.
Yep. So those are my 3.
I love all of those. And having those tools would allow you to quickly use fresh ingredients, which is so much better whenever you're doing soup or anything, honestly. You can buy bottled lime and lemon juice from the store. Taste that compared to a real lime or lemon.
It doesn't taste the same.
It doesn't taste the same.
No.
And the flavor you're going to get is just not as bright.
Yep.
It's not as citrusy. It's just not as good.
Yeah. Yep.
Same thing with garlic. If you try jarred garlic right next to fresh garlic, it's just not the same. Not that you can't use that in a pinch, but it's if you have a way to make it really fast. It's really the best way to go. You can elevate your soups a notch higher.
Yes, absolutely.
Than the other. Do you have any funny stories or otherwise that have come about from your many, many days of hospitality?
Well, my husband says that when we were first married that I burned the soup. Not like too hot, but that I burned it. And
served it?
God has been gracious to me because I do not remember this, but it
blocked it from your memory.
It is part of story lore in our house. And so I'm certain he's right. I just don't remember it. But I think it's important to remember that my girls start off cooking soup for a large crowd and they've never done it before. So we have had some doozies that have turned out very bad. The one that we cannot make again because no one in my family will eat it. It was broccoli cheddar soup.
Ooh, broccoli done bad it's hard
curdled.
To recover from.
We had curdled, slimy, gray broccoli, and it stunk so bad. And here we have this, I had 28 quarts of burned broccoli curdled cheddar soup.
Oh.
And all the college students are coming. Like then. It was one of those situations where my daughter made it and then went off to do something. And normally that's okay because it's kind of like a hot slow cooker. It's normal, but it was not okay with this soup. So we ended spending a bundle of money on pizza. Because there was no hope.
There was no hope and nothing to do. They were walking in the door.
Yes. There was no hope and there was no soup that was edible.
And the smell in the house was probably quite delightful.
Oh, it was horrible. And I like broccoli cheddar soup, but I will not make it again. I can't.
You just can't. You haven't recovered from the smell,
No, from the texture of dipping that ladle in and pulling it out and it just coming out like in globs. Oh, gross.
She's still traumatized.
Oh, gross.
How many years ago has this been?
Oh, it's probably been, she's at the end of, I can't say because then I would give it up.
Oh. We won't make her do the math.
At least 2. At least 2 years.
Well, it's funny when I was, with all of my pregnancies, I had the morning sickness, but the first one was extremely rough. And it took years for me to eat the foods that, I ate in those early days.
Yep.
And I thought maybe I would never eat them again, but it did take longer than 2.
Yep.
The foods that I kept trying to eat over and over and over just to try to get some nutrition down.
But we have not made broccoli cheddar soup again. We won't do it.
There's a small amount of hope because I'm finally re-eating those foods.
I just figure there's plenty more options. And maybe it's something intrinsic with making a large batch of cheddar broccoli.
Maybe it's not really great for large groups.
That's true.
Unless you are babying it.
Right. Yep.
Well, we are not going to see that on her rotation.
No, you won't see that one.
But we will have 8 recipes posted, which is amazing. So fun. Go to comeoverfordinner.com. That's just the homepage, but you can click on recipes and you'll see her name, Jenny, and a description of what she talked about and links to all of her recipes. So, and of course on the shop page, there will be links to the items she recommended. So you can see and print exactly what we're talking about and start your own soup night or just create soup for a crowd or even for your own family. I'm super excited to make the one you mentioned.
Pork pozole. It's our favorite.
This is new for me and I love new recipes. For some reason, I am kind of in one of those stages where it's like, I don't know what I want to cook this week. Now I know. So thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you for joining me today, Jenny. It's been fabulous.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Until next time, bye for now.